Hello friends, welcome you all in this today's session. I am Professor Umeshna and today I am going to talk on the topic business, government and society, of which today we are going to discuss on the third unit, public-private partnership. This public-private partnership is also known as PPP model, 3P model. This public-private partnership is gaining a lot of popularity and a lot of the private sectors are interested to join this PPP model. Friends, what is this PPP model? Public-private partnership. Public is governed by government, while as the private, it is governed by individual. So partnership means involvement. So involvement of private and government to build or to develop a specific project is known as PPP. Basically, it is the commercial legal relationship between the government and the private. The main object is to develop a specific project. It is nothing but the arrangement between the government or statutory entity or government owned entity at the one side, and at the another side is private sector. So the combination or the involvement of this private and government sector to develop a government project is known as public-private partnership. So these public-private partnerships allow a large-scale government projects. That means these public and private sectors are combined or involved especially to achieve or develop a large-scale government sector projects. They are not involved in the small-scale projects, but this partnership is basically involved in a large-scale government projects. If we will see, the large-scale government projects are nothing but the roads developments or the bridge or the dam or rail projects, or you can say a big hospital projects. These are involved in the government large-scale projects. Up till now, there was only one way which we know is the traditional way which the government was following. That means the roads, what we know, the roads are developed by the governments, the dams are developed by the governments, the bridges are developed by the governments, the rail projects are developed by the governments, and the dams are developed by the governments. This was the traditional way the government used to develop all these projects. But from since 2011, the government dissolved because due to the insufficient force or source, the government couldn't concentrate on only one project. Because if the government needs to concentrate on one project, the government, it's a time consumable. Again, the budget, within the provided budget, it will not, again it is an obstacle. So the government, what did the government? Called for the private sectors, the private players. So this PPP means the private sectors, the private players are invited by the government to join us and combinedly to do the projects. In Marathi there is a say, एकमेका सहाय्य करू अवघे धरू सुपंथ. The same way is followed in this private PPP, that is public, private and partnership. What happens exactly in this PPP? The government invites the private sector raises the fund, or again it depends on the committee, it depends upon the agreement, whether the government it puts its full funds or whether equally it is funded 50% by the private, 50% by the government, or 70-30. It depends in the agreement or the committee decides, and then the project starts. So what happens? This private companies are invited by the government. The private companies, they invest their knowledge, their technology, their innovation, and they develop the project together, and they hand over this project to the government after completion. This is nothing but the public-private partnership. If we will take an example, if the government and public togetherly combines to form a road, this is, we can say, a national highway. The government invites the private player may be the international player. The international player invites, then it is subcontract, it is divided into subcontract by the international player, and this in this subcontract the local private players are also involved. So what happens? Again, this adds a benefits to the society, to the local privates, increase in the standardization. So that's how they involve and they builds or develops a road. The same case in the bridge. The same case if the government want to take a help of these private companies, they invite the private companies. Now, basically the government invites these private companies by the lucrative schemes or even by the subsidies, or they may give the benefits in the taxations. Likewise, they invite the private players. So the maximum involvement of these private players in the partnership that benefits the governments. Now, if you want to see how the government is benefited by this, one thing, the government is benefited, especially they get a new technology, they get a new involvement, they get a skilled person. So the deficiency, the government has an insufficient, we can say, the resources. Now the resources may be tangible or intangible. The tangible resource, if you will consider, it includes the physical, like human resource, then the equipments, then the machineries, capital basic, and the intangible, we can say the intangible resources, that is the talency, that is the intelligence, then the skill, and we can say the technology and the innovation. So this combinedly government uses it, so it is benefit for the government to utilize these all things. The next benefit for the government, the project completes in the right time. Another benefit for the government is the PPP helps by benefiting it in the limited budget. Limited, what budget is sanctioned, in that budget only the project gets completed. Next benefit, it develops the economy, especially when the government do partnership with the international player, or we can say a giant player. Suppose the government involves the Ambani group, especially in the road development, the Reliance group. Then what the Reliance group, it will divide it into part. It will divide it partly the roads, and the government and the Reliance group, it may give the subcontracts to the local players, the local private players. So this private players, again, it will benefit like the local utilizations of the resources, the human resource. Again, each and every the local resources are utilized. So this will help in the employability. It will increase the employability, and it will increase the standard of living of the local people. That will definitely help the government in by in the increasing the economy. So this is nothing but the PPP model. This how it benefits to the people, it benefits to the government, and hence it invites all the private players to get involved and develop the country, develop the infrastructure. Thank you. If you had any queries, please ask me, please ask the questions and contact me. Thank you. Thank you so much.